finish what I began. Yes, I will always love you, and I'll be there just for you. So in all that you do, my child, to yourself you must be true. So promise me that you will fight for what it is that you believe. No matter what you do in life, it's in the giving that you'll receive. Wherever the road may take you, those you meet along the way, promise me that you will count your blessings every day.
And a very good day, or evening, or morning to you, whenever you happen to catch this podcast. I am Jason Hawes, back here once again on American Faith Today, and, it is funny how things work out sometimes. It really, truthfully is. I was on Facebook yesterday, and I'm generally on Facebook to varying degrees and varying amount of times, pretty much every day, if not posting, certainly reading and checking things out and what have you. But I was on Facebook yesterday, and a couple of, and by the way, I am recording this on Friday the 13th, and a couple of my Facebook friends, one of whom happened to be my dad, who probably listens to this, at least from time to time, and another who is somebody who I believe listens to this every time that she can. And I'm sure this is a post that made its way through Facebook, made the rounds on Facebook, but you had an older guy sitting apparently with a cup of coffee in his hand, and he's looking, and the caption says, "Oh, tomorrow is Friday the 13th. And then there's a picture below of another caption that says Friday the 13th in the year 2020. And I had a little bit of fun with that, teasing my dad, saying, and you named me what you did, with, of course, Jason from Friday the 13th movies, and this individual, too, who listens to the show, saying, "Hi, this is Jason, reporting for Friday the 13th. What can go wrong?" But she actually said that it would be nice to hear a podcast from me. And I said, well, who knows? That may happen, or that might happen. And I had given some thought. As I said, I really had, and I was thinking of doing one because it's just the way that my schedule happened to fall this week. My work schedule now, I actually have a full-time job and I have a part-time job. And even with my part-time job, I work two different locations with the part-time job. It's not a lot of hours with the part-time job, although combined it probably is like I'd say a 20 to 25 hour work week, and then a 40-hour work week, probably closer to 25 hours, and then a 40-hour work week in my full-time job. So I certainly have managed to stay busy. But with my full-time position, I was actually off yesterday and today. And so I thought if I could find some time, schedule some time, that maybe, in fact, I would do a podcast today. And as it turns out, I'm able to do that. So that, hopefully, for those of you who listen, you'll consider that to be a very, very good thing. Certainly, hopefully not a bad one. But hopefully this will be one that you get something out of. As I probably have been doing as much as not. This will be another, pretty much just a pure Bible study podcast that I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to title it Restoration After the Storm. Restoration After the Storm. We've got a lot going on, obviously, in this country and in this world right now. And I think maybe that was part of and believe me, to the person who said that, I very much appreciate that you get that much out of these. That you said you would feel better if you could hear me do a short podcast today. But we've got so much going on that's on the minds of so many people in this country and in this world, but certainly in our country, the United States. And I know there's some listeners up north of us too, up in Canada, at least a couple of you. But there is so much going on, you might even say, in the West, in the Christian West, that has us stressed out, that has us really wondering maybe where to turn, what's going to happen next, that has a lot of people confused, that has a lot of people, I saw a blurb, and this isn't in the Christian West, but I saw a blurb where in Japan, where I believe coronavirus was not supposed to be as bad in Japan, and that very much may be the case, especially with this news, but I believe in October, there were more people who died via suicide in Japan than they did of coronavirus. And, that is an effect of what they're doing to people all around the world with the terror that they're putting in their minds and in their hearts over this virus that is not to say that it's nothing, but is not anywhere near what they've made it out to be. And there's those who listen to this and those out there who know that all too well. But I wanted to get into the Bible, and like I said, restoration after the storm. I wanted to pick out, and I almost decided to just go into, as I was going into Isaiah, and there's so much in Isaiah just overall, I almost was tempted to just start a Bible study series on the book of Isaiah. But I've decided, for time's sake, and especially since I don't necessarily have a great deal of time to do these, or can't find a great deal of time to do these all that often, it would seem, and Isaiah being 61 chapters, I believe 61 chapters, that could take quite a bit of time to finish, needless to say. So we're going to do a themed, a topical study, restoration after the storm. And we're going to take a look at what happens on there, some of the most beautiful verses and passages and chapters in my mind that hopefully will give comfort, and should very much give comfort, as to what happens on the other side of this. Not just on the other side of what they're doing, but what happens after the tribulation, what happens after Christ returns, and what happens in the eternity. Certainly can't cover everything along those lines in the time remaining. But we're going to try to hit some highlights, and we're going to see what we can do with it. If you would feel free, go ahead and open up your Bibles. We're going to start, and I tried to figure out how to organize this, and you may like the way this is organized. You may have organized it a different way, be that as it may. We're going to start here, and we're going to come down a little bit, and then we're going to put things on a more positive level, but there's a positive level to this as well, but we're going to come down a little bit, or quite a lot here, and God's going to come down quite a lot through Isaiah on the people that right now are up to these shenanigans. The people that right now are oppressing and are deceiving and are enslaving people in as many ways as they possibly can. And, they don't even hide it either, is the thing. I made mention of that last night as well, with some information that was shared, that I shared after I saw it from a friend and a Christian sister on Facebook, that you've got in the founder and chair of the World Economic Forum, who actually has a hashtag or posted a hashtag on Twitter, "Own Nothing, Be Happy." And if you look into it, that's their plan to... it is playing out, even as was leaked from supposedly somebody in the Canadian government, where ultimately they'll forgive or they'll erase the debts of people, but there's a condition, there's a string attached to where you want your debts forgiven, you want your debts to disappear, well, you'll sign over all of your assets to these people. And you need anything, basically you rent it from these same people, and they come up with this own nothing, be nothing, or own nothing, be happy. It's strict. It's textbook communism, even certainly socialism, but textbook communism. And like I said, they don't even hide it. But let's turn to Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and of course Isaiah was a prophet that leading up to the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. He was a prophet when Hezekiah was king, and they did not go into captivity under Hezekiah, but certainly not long thereafter. And they did have trouble at their gates with siegings that were taking place. The Assyrian that had scattered and taken the house of Israel captive was knocking on the door during Hezekiah's reign at Jerusalem. But the word that Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, verse 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days, that's these days that we're in right now, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. Mount Zion, you can talk about as far as a literal location, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. All the governments of the world, certainly the one world government that is to come, and even all the governments now are nothing. There'll be a place for nations, certainly in the eternity, and those that make it into the eternity. But it's God's rule, and it's God's kingdom that reigns over all. Verse 3, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Again, obviously, where all of that will be headquartered. And it sounds good so far. And it is good. But when we get there, or as we get there, you're going to see it's going to be very, very rough for some of these people. Verse 4, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and correct them, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. Now that's when Christ reigns. That's when God reigns. Because you're going to have a time towards the end of Satan's reign, towards the end of his tribulation, in which you're going to have nation lifting up sword against nation, because you're going to have a confederacy of nations led by Russia coming against, I believe, our nation, the United States. And you're going to have another battle that takes place there in Jerusalem. But though it will be a one-world system, even under Satan, it's not going to last, and there's not ever going to be true peace until Christ reigns. Certainly not lasting and not true peace. In fact, of course, as is written in, I believe, 2 Thessalonians, peace and safety cometh, and as soon as they say peace and safety, destruction cometh upon them. Verse 5, O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord. 6, therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. Allowing false religions, false ideas, demonic ideas, to get mixed into God's church, to get mixed into Christianity. 7, and their land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. 8, their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made. And, in today's society, in today's world, you can make an idol out of your job. You can make an idol out of any of your possessions. Anything that you place above God in your relationship with Him is an idol. And, you don't have people whittling little false gods